here for the privilege of coming alongside parents as they raise their children, giving them the building blocks that they need for success and to achieve all that you've created them to. Pray, Father, that as we meet together this morning to discuss the business of the district, Lord, that our hearts and our minds would seek your truth and your guidance and your wisdom in all that we do. And it's in your holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'm going to call to order the school board workshop for March 24th, 2026. I don't have my script with me, so if there are any individuals in the audience that have questions during our presentation, and that is fine, just let me know. But other than that, we are going to go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to start with school board members. If there's anything that you guys want to discuss, you want to bring forward, that's not what we're going to talk about today. This is the time to discuss that.
So I had an interest in helping us write our newsletter, only because back when I was very, very young, I used to write for a newspaper, and I sent you guys an email with some topic suggestions, and I wanted to, Mr. Superintendent, can I give you one of these? So
Sure.
you can kind of see, there's some things I might need from the district sometimes. Kelly, I'm going to give you one real quick as well. So what I thought was, I would really like the board's newsletter to be personalized. You know, each one of us ran for our reasons. Each one of us has a passion and compassion for education and parents and students. And I really wanted, not that the newsletter isn't fine the way it is, but I really wanted it to be very reflective of our values and why we ran for office. Kind of a way for people to get to know us. A lot of times you get emails from people who are disappointed for one reason or the other. And we're the people that they reach out to, well, of course, the superintendent as well, but they want to know where we come from, what we stand for, how we can help them. And I think the newsletter can do that. It's not really long-winded, but I do have a copy. So for instance, to make it like maybe more personalized for us, the first part was like a message from the school board. We could do internal audit findings there, since that was an initiative that we started, and to let people know. We could do things like school board member, let's say Ms. Clark has something she would like to say from, you know, her heart or something on her mind about school boards. It could be there if somebody wanted to take that section. The chair could write something for that section that represents what we're thinking, what we're trying to accomplish, our long-range goals. There was a policy spotlight, if you guys didn't mind. I think it's important to talk about the student code of conduct and dividing it between elementary and secondary, what's changing and why. I think I can get with the superintendent to make sure, because there's really good things that come from having those two separated. I think it's important parents know about that. Board initiatives, I think it's a great place for teacher pay, staff pay, the 1% mill. It's a great place to make sure that everyone understands where we come from and why we'd like to do it. And tracking our progress, I have asked the superintendent yesterday if we could get some results, some clarification. I hear from teachers everywhere how grateful they are to have the cell phones. That commitment from the board, from the district, from administrators to keep cell phones out of the classroom has made a lot of teachers really happy. Transportation, what this means for students and families. So Mr. Superintendent, I thought maybe we could write about what we think is going to happen next year. Maybe ease some minds, a plan. I could take what you've said to write that, but I think it's important that maybe you and I work together to make sure that I'm 100% on board and we're on board with what we think is going to happen next year. And then working together for better schools. We did do new policies when it came to our parent-teacher organizations, family organizations, and I actually know somebody who started one of those at Coppergate. The administration, the principals have been absolutely fabulous. They're following the new policy. Parents are engaged. I thought it would be a good place to maybe highlight. So what I'm asking is if you guys can keep this, there's fun facts, this year's gains, reading lower quartile. I don't actually have access, so that's something the district will have to provide. I know we're doing very well, especially in the lower quartile. And I wanted to know if you like the topics, one, we could add a different thing to these general headings, and if there's something else that you might want to add to it. So.
Any feedback?
Do you have a copy of your?
I do have it. I just made a copy of the email so that we would have it in case someone wanted
Okay,
to.
all right. I figured you had the newsletter all made out.
No, we have to talk about it first.
Well, some ideas.
That's my specialty. What I'll be doing for the next whatever.
Can we put our new canine program that we've kicked off and?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think that's a great thing. Do you want to do it a board initiative? Do you want to do it
Wherever you see fit.
community impact? It can be, it could be in from the boardroom if you guys wanted.
Whichever,
I'll write it here.
Some of our things that we've done since the last newsletter, I think should be in there, and then, whenever you get it finished, we can also talk about if we want to add something or adjust something or whatever, so we'll all look at the final copy before it goes out, so.
And the district wrote a really nice Facebook, I'm not sure they're probably not here, but when they introduced the dogs, they did a really nice, we could just literally take a lot of that, I think, with the nice pictures and put it there for people who may not have seen it. But also this would be a place where maybe I can call you, Ms. Skipper, and you give me a quote, because you went there to one of the schools and you watched it in action, just so that we have that board connection there, so people know that, you know, we're involved, so. Anybody else have anything?
I guess I'm just confused. Is this doing it differently than the way we did it last
We just
time?
had a newsletter. It's just a newsletter.
But I mean, like, what are we doing differently, I guess is my question.
Well, there may be the headings, because the problem is coming up with the ideas, right? Ms. Skipper was trying to get that done, like pulling stories from here and there. The thing about having headings, you can put whatever we would like to see in it, but the format will stay the same. It's still gonna be a board newsletter, but if we don't get some kind of, you don't pick up a newspaper, right, and it's done differently every single time, right? You have to have, as an English teacher, you have to have some kind of a format to be able to plug things in, become familiar with.
I thought we didn't have a format with the one we did.
It's been different each time.
Okay.
And I don't
We've been
know,
using the aptG layout,
Yeah.
and so that one, if we continue to use that format, based on what you're saying, that you want that consistency of structure and format, that would be something that we can assist with, because we have it on through our system. We have what your template is,
yeah.
and so I would,
Well, you guys.
I'm interested, and I can
don't
take
have
notes on
access,
what
right.
role you would like for us to play in this to assist.
Well, I don't have access to anything. I'm just a board member writing articles. So I don't have access to the programs. I don't have access to the data.
Well,
So it
would you
has to
send
be
it
in
to
conjunction.
me, and then we would create that for you? Is that how you would?
Well, the idea of with her being on that committee assignment was
Yeah,
to
to work
work
together.
closely with Sabrina and or you, whoever. But I assume Sabrina's who's gonna do the newsletter?
Yeah, she and I work together on that.
Okay, so either you or Sabrina, where she would say, hey, this is what we want in the newsletter, and then you guys would generate it and then present it to us, and then we can adjust it or add to it or whatever.
So from a newsletter standpoint, when I used to write for the schools, the newsletter, when I did yearbook for those 8 years or whatever, we always knew what the headings were so we could find the stories. It would make it easier. It would stay the same every time we do it, it's just plugging in the new words. So that, the intent is to make it easier. So if Mr. Alvaro is out and about and has an idea that he thinks people should know about our board intent, we just put it in that box. Not sure what format, what program you're using.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much the same across the world when you do newspapers. You have your editorial, they find the story, right? So it should be easier than last time when we were trying to plan it over there.
Well, and we can do that offline. What I want to make sure is that we as a board, whatever ideas that we want in it, they can come up with a design and do all the things, just the ideas that we would like to see within it. And if it's something we've already done, that's not breaking sunshine. So if you feel more comfortable reaching out to Mr. Browski or Jared or Mr. Blocker or whatever, then that's fine. But this is essentially stuff we've already done and or voted on. So that is my intent when we have these discussions for our board or our newsletter here at the workshop is just, hey, this is the idea. Like I just said, I would like to see the K-9s in there. And then Ms. Hanson and Ms. Watt and Sabrina can go and do their thing and then bring it back to us and we can say, hey, that looks great, or we need to do this or that or whatever.
Okay, so basically we're keeping the same thing
Right.
the way we've done it.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just what idea do you want? And if you find something within that okay, board initiatives, like, hey, this would be great, teacher pay, whatever, we are discussing that and we can add that to that section.
I thought that's what we've been doing all along.
Yeah, I
As
just
time changes and things come up, even our discussion about legislative needs and what we have gone, before our,
Is
Oh,
that
yeah, a legislative update would be really great.
so.
This
Anyway, I would hope that this really isn't changing any. We've already discussed that you would be part of that committee, so we'll make things current and at the time for each.
Well, the last two times I met with Ms. Watt and Madam Chair, we were really just struggling with the ideas to put in things. What this does is we might not have 6 things every time, right? Especially,
Oh, we probably will.
or we probably will. I just wanted you guys to know that as you're, like, the police dogs, right? The new program, that's great, right? Before, when we sat here, it was just really kind of hard to figure out what exactly we wanted to talk about. This lets you think, if you kept this in your school board stuff and you had an idea, you could just write it down. And then gives us an easier way to communicate versus sitting at the table after a board meeting and then making, it's just, it would
It's
be a lot.
essentially saying keep this and then put your ideas in these boxes so that next time when we do our board letter, we can say, hey, under fun facts, let's do this. Or hey, this would look good, here or whatever.
And the idea
This
is
is just a format. What I want to discuss, they can do all that. I just want to discuss ideas. So legislative updates,
Yeah, I think-
that would be perfect if you want to,
Legislative update?
if you want to work with,
Well, and I actually really need to work with the district. I don't have access to,
Well, that's where I think what I'm maybe not 100% on is if we submit ideas, we have a staff that their entire job is public relations and media. Like I think we should submit our ideas and let them generate, just like we've done in the past.
I mean,
think we've done a
I'm
good
okay
job
with that
writing.
too. I just wanted to maybe personalize it a little differently. Instead of it, there's nothing wrong with district letters and the way the district communicates. I just personally feel like we're just different, a little bit different as a 5-person elected board, that it could be more personalized for us. I mean, the letter's fine.
Maybe a way to help personalize it is you determine what you want the article to be about.
Yeah.
And then perhaps a quote from a board member or a way to
Yeah,
personalize.
something like that, and I know that the district is very busy as well, Ms. Watts, so part of this was to hope that we could get ideas a little earlier and be giving us a little more structured time. It really wasn't about me spending the next 40 hours trying to figure out how to write. I'm getting older, it takes me a really long time to do that. It really was about having a little more structure that I would hopefully make it a little easier than our last meeting.
No, so here's what I hear, just so that I can make sure that from this, is that the board likes these headings and that we go along with these headings. Each you know, I think we have the quarterly newsletter, kind of like at the end of each 9 weeks type
Yeah.
thing. And each time you will lead the discussion here regarding what would go underneath here, gathering those ideas. From you, I would just need to know where and how you want to personalize it. We can absolutely take this and provide some really nice content for your review and approval before being published. You know, it looks great. These are great ideas. And then, again, just from you, I would just need to know where you want the personalization from the board, and we are certainly happy to accommodate.
Well, I think the topics itself, right, if we're talking about the board's initiative for the 1% mill, I think that is the personalization, right? And I think it is important, like, when we have like a new PTO, I think it's at Coppergate, right? They're so excited about it, there's so many parents involved. I think it's important that even when we talk about what it means for students next year, the parents about the transportation, would probably be a good place for the superintendent to maybe lay a thought in there, because to help ease the minds of parents who have struggled with transportation this year. I think in itself, our ideas are personalizing to what we would like people to know.
I think
I
that's a
think
great
we ought
idea.
to attach an application to it as well, so we can share and get recruitment for bus drivers.
We can attach the flyer. We're also doing bus registration right now. So
And could you
for
have
next
links
school
in
year.
there, like links if somebody wanted to learn more, like if they
Absolutely.
transportation?
We have that now.
Absolutely.
We
But I mean, like the
we
bus
added
flyer?
the links at the end of our last.
Yes.
So we can do, we had like the deadline for links or whatever.
Could you
so
have
we
that
could do
beautiful
that.
bus flyer?
We
Yes.
could
Yes.
do the buses. Okay, I didn't want to spend too much time on this. I just want to make sure that we all have the ideas, and then Ms. Hanson can run off and do the details of it. if
So
we
my
could do
only
it.
concern with 6 sections is that it might be real lengthy. And I don't know.
It could be.
Yeah, your readership, you might lose them if it's
Well, each section wouldn't be very.
It's just one little story.
like a blurb, like a paragraph.
It could be 2 paragraphs, it might be we don't have anything to talk about that. You know, in the beginning of the year, we might not have a lot to say. I mean, I don't know. And I just know that,
The idea of keeping it short and bullet points and graphics versus, yes.
enough
and
people
small.
open it, and if we have interesting topics, it'll be read.
Right,
Sometimes it's not about the length, it's about the content, you know?
yeah.
And I think with the canine, just a thought, I mean, it's not about just putting a picture out there and saying, we've got them now. This was something I talked to the sheriff about a few years back. And we have to recognize why, and we have to recognize the cost in having a handler. So that kind of information, yeah, if we're gonna talk about it, then let's explain the change so people understand more, but keep it obviously in a secure level. Anyway, moving on.
Any other court comments, questions? All right, we are gonna jump right into the staffing plan, Mr. Wilson.
All right, I'm excited. It's the fourth quarter, and fourth quarter means 2 things. One, we're getting ready, assessment season starts, May 1st, after it starts in April. We're getting ready for all of that, but we've already been working hard at what do we do for next school year. And so the intent this morning is to, in about 15-minute time frame, to kind of synthesize the information that I've already provided you, tell you some of the differences that have happened for next year related to staffing. Staffing is one of the most important things that the district does and the board approves, because that staffing is what really determines the services that are provided to students. And I tell you what, it's more difficult this year than in past years because of the budgetary situation in the state as well as in the district, and how do we provide the best possible services for our students and the support that teachers need and all of those sorts of things. So here's my best attempt at a 15-minute overview of this. So basically, one of the things I want to point out is that the guiding principles are stability, fiscally conservative, flexibility, and transparency. So by stability, we mean that the organization itself has 5,000 people that are employed You know, it's kind of like it's not a little speedboat. It's a big barge going down the river. And it's hard for that barge to turn around quickly just because of the sheer size of it. To give you an idea, the 5,000 people that work for Clay County Schools is more than every other governmental agency combined by 1,000. So this is a huge operation. That's why it takes many months in order to get us to this point. We started in December, and I'm going to kind of guide you through the process to get us to where we are. It's fiscally conservative. The package that I'm going to show you is $7.3 million less than last year's package, right? 100% necessary, because one of the things you have to do is take a look at the budget in the situation and then say, okay, what are we going to do in relation to the people that work for Clay County Schools? I think that this provides flexibility for us. Remember, the document that you have and this presentation, if you were to ask me, is this 100% correct, the answer is no. Because between now and the start of the next school year, things will change. Remember, this is a fluid document. Each month, it can change. There's a spot on the board agenda for allocation changes for that very reason. So this is not the be-all, end-all, so I don't want the board to feel like on the agenda item, if there's one part that you think should maneuver one way slightly or this way slightly, please remember that it's a long haul to August, right? And this is just the baseline of that. So flexibility is really the key. And then transparency. Every single position is on that document, right? As well as a fiscal analysis of that. So there's a highly transparent process. So first thing we do is all things go back to the strategic plan. Like, how does our strategic plan relate to this? Remember, we're talking about student success, recruitment of teachers and qualified staff, family and community engagement. Remember, was one of the things that we said, hey, we need to focus on, which is why you saw family and community engagement position added the previous year in order to address the school improvement needs. So we look at this and say, does our staffing plan align with the goals of the strategic plan that we have? So that's the very first step that we do. You can see the next step is just review current staffing plan. How's it going this year? Like, are there areas that we say you need more of one particular position or less of one particular position? Let me just say something about allocations that I've known over 37 years. If you were to ask somebody in a certain department, do you need more of X? The answer is yes.
Always.
And if you said, can you do with less than one of X? The answer is no. Right? With that as a fact. So then it becomes very difficult to kind of go through the process line by line to make that determination and determine whether there's enough support. Really, I think I was sharing with somebody, the only things in statute are you have to have a school board, you have to have a superintendent, and you have to have a principal. Those are the only things that are in statute. We know that schools would be miserable places if those were the only people employed, right? So there's a whole mess of things that are needed in order to provide good quality services, with the bottom line being our students. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so you can see we review the current staffing plan line by line. I know the staff loves this because we've had about 15 meetings. We sit around the table like this. Argyle Elementary School, and then we go whoop, whoop, down each one. Okay, great, we're done with Argyle, and then we go on to the next one for each and every school within the district. So it's a lovely time. Then we analyze our current needs. Okay, what do we need? Maybe something that's different now. How do we refine so that we have less cost and still provide good quality services? So that's a difficult type of thing to do, because you're also trying to do it within budgetary reality, right? If you had unlimited funds, you could say, let's do this. But a lot of times those ideas can't happen because you don't have the finances to do it. So it's a balancing act.
Is this also based on your estimated FTE changes?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So like when you
Population shifts.
like maybe 3 teachers less at a school under basic
Correct.
education, it could be because the numbers aren't there.
Correct.
Okay.
100%. So we look at each school's population. We look at last year, we look at the projection for the upcoming year. Last year's projection, this year's actual, next year's projection, in order to make that determination at the school level. So you can see, once we get to the part where we're analyzing current needs, notice I put "and budgetary constraints" on step 3. So you determine, here's exactly what you're talking about, Ms. Hanson. Determine enrollment shifts to certain schools as determined by our population. Project state revenue. Boy, is that, geez, if I could do that, I'd be like Houdini. I mean, I write the book and retire today. As you all know, the session did not end with a budget. They're going to go back and have a budget. But everybody that's done the deep dive in it looks like, right, of course, I have no idea, but it looks like a very, very small increase. So we're talking like 0.4 of 1%. So to give you an idea, if inflation was 2.7%, it's clear that the budget is not going to even meet the inflationary needs of the district. But I suppose one positive is the state can say that they increased revenue to schools. 0.4% is not enough in order to meet the needs of Clay County schools. So I'm hoping that something happens when the state goes back in the session. Notice the way I said that? That was good wording. I liked it. Okay. Very real. Okay, it's very real. You can't just increase it a very small amount when that small amount's not even enough. Inflation in Clay County school terms, by the way, is roughly $14 million. So that's just inflation. That's a lot of money. Thus, the streamlining, removing, you're going to notice one of the major changes here is the removal of the Climate and Culture Department, with many of the functions going on to student services through ESE. That allows us to then align the work as well as saving costs for that.
Can I ask a big favor?
Sure.
And if it's not doable, that's fine. I think it would be helpful for me, and if it's too much, don't do it. But to get something up here in the purple column that says how many students roughly are in that school.
We probably have a single document that we can send you that has that.
Plug that in,
rather
when you
than-
look from school to school. I think
Yeah,
that-
we have a document that does that.
Okay.
I'm going to show you how many students are at that school.
Yep.
But I'm going to show you a chart here in a second
Okay.
too that'll help. And we adjust the staffing accordingly. Naturally, we've done the analysis, we've been in these meetings. Okay, we're going to make the adjustment to it and then figure out the budget calculation there. So when you take a look at it, we use the census information, which of course you do know that one of the things that public schools are experiencing all across the nation is a decline in the birth rate. You know, I have 2 children and I encourage them every day. I've got 1 grandchild. I'm doing my part in that part. Other people need to do their part. But birth rates are going down, so naturally the number of students that we have are going down also. We'll look at kindergarten enrollment trends, the progression of students throughout the grade levels, change in residential development. I will say that the next bullet point has been a big help this year. You know, we're onboarding focus. We're to the point where the beginning of next school year, we'll have a new information system. One of the things that we've done a little differently in coming up with these numbers is look at the class tallies of how many students enrolled in each course. That allows for more flexibility and fine tuning, particularly at the secondary level. In elementary, it's more static in the sense that it's grade levels. In secondary, it becomes very difficult because everybody has 6 different classes. They're taught by teachers with different certifications. They can't teach certain courses, so it becomes more complicated. So knowing the number of students that have signed up for each class ahead of the allocations allows us to refine it to an even greater extent. So that's been a great step there. If you can click on where it says staff model, the link on the, Let's see if it pops up. Okay, hard to see, but you can see that there's a base order. That has the number of students that you need in order to earn another position based on like how do you, why is there 2 of these at this school and 3 of these at a different school? Well, it has to do with the number of students. So there's a model that's adjusted. That provides the baseline. Please understand that situations change. You can't go strictly by a number baseline and say that's it, right? Because if you had 1,500 students, you get an extra blank, okay? But you got 1,498. Like, there's some flexibility within the system to do that, but you can see that there's for each level, elementary, junior high, high school, there's a sheet that says, hey, why is it that this school has this many of that? Which I think is helpful for your questions that you bring forward. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And then there's a whole timeline there, which can show you, hey, we started in December doing this to get to the point where we're having approval today, and then reappointment of our employees in April. So we can go back to the presentation. Let's see. Okay, so here are the results. Okay, I tried to summarize 28 pages on one page. You can see that at the elementary level, you're seeing a reduction of 32 basic teachers, a reduction of 9 ESE gifted teachers. You can kind of read through that, but you can see how those changes were made. We keep track of number of teachers by grade level, number of students within the grade level, making sure that we're on track for each and every school. Now, when you ask about enrollment is roughly the same as it was in previous years. So that's the elementary impact. When it comes to junior high, you can see the same sort of thing. So imagine going school by school, how many students are at this school, what programs are there. Some of the programs are different. So like, for example, if you take Ridgeview High School, the number of ESE programs there are much higher than other schools, right? So there's differences based on programs that are at the school. Also, you can see the reductions in our junior high program, and then you can see the reductions in our high school program also. Very little changes when it comes to our alternative school. Then you're looking at financial impact. So the total financial impact at the school level is, because I did the math on the last sheet, $5,025,251, which is the combination of general and federal funds that you see on that particular sheet. There's a financial analysis that you have within your book that goes between all staff, instructional support, administrative, and federal funds, millage funds, etc. All of that is in the booklet that's provided. So then, when you look at the district level, these are all the departments within the district where there's no change, no financial impact. So we're only going to talk about the ones where there was a change, not all the ones that there wasn't. So you can see under the school board and superintendent, there's no change to the staffing for that particular page of the booklet. But then when you start to look at it, the instructional division is the biggest division, which, when you think about it, well, that would make sense, right? That the instructional division would be the biggest. One of the things that I tried to make sure in the allocation package is that there's equity between the schools and the district, with majority with a higher percentage of reduction coming from the district level. Also, administrative versus instructional versus sports, not a competition, but I do think that you have to provide equity between those, because if you cut one group and not the other, it's easy to say, well, why didn't you cut that? So I think what you'll see in this plan, great deal of care given to all of that. And I always say, at the district level, we do things kind of on the cheap, and people don't realize. I always point out that this room was the print center. There used to be little copiers going around this room until the floor collapsed. And then Bryce and her team built this particular room. So people might see this on camera and go, well, that's a nice room. you need to walk across the street, right? I always say I went from Oak High School, I think my saying was something like I went from the penthouse to the outhouse. We do not spend money at the district level, and we take such, I'm gonna say it, perverse pride in that.
Yeah.
Like, we truly believe in that. So when you look at positions, I got a shake head from a new county office person. Mrs. Massey is agreeing, because she's been here for a while, right? So when you take a look at people within the district office, I saw a stat that 92% of all positions that are labeled district positions are people that are out in schools, right? So just because a position is a district position doesn't mean that they're not people out of school. So let me give you an example, just one close to home. Speech pathologists. We have 42 speech pathologists that are district office employees. So if you look at the number of people in the district office, it'll say those 42 people will show up. They're all out in schools. They're not sitting around the district office. The 8% that we're talking about, most of them are in this room right now, okay, is the district office. So I would gladly debate that very loudly, very publicly about the number of people at the district level related to that. I think the stat proves that. So when you take a look at instructional resources, we're deleting one administrative assistant there. 3 coaches between professional development and early literacy. Let me tell you, this is kind of tough. This is a concept that I want to bring up with the board, is the support that you have to have for teachers versus teachers in the classroom. So I just want to say this publicly, that really the teacher in the classroom is the front line that works with students and therefore have a great importance, right? No doubt about it. But there has to be people that support those individuals that do that, right? And then the question becomes, how much support do they need, right? And so last year we did reduce some of the coaches and specialists and all of those folks at district office. This year we're reducing 3 more. But I would caution the board into thinking that you can just simply put a teacher in the classroom without any support and just pray that it all works out. That's not a good strategy. I would strongly make the argument the reason why Clay County is as successful as it is because we're able to transcend where we sit in a per capita. We're about middle of the pack. 67 counties, we're right in the middle per capita income, which is the greatest determinant of student academic success. When you look, why are we in the top 10 academically? It's because we support people out in the classroom. So it's very difficult because we sat around a table like this and we debated back and forth many hours of like, hey, can we reduce one more of these and still provide the same service? Can we replicate this some other way? And so it's a real struggle because you don't want to take away the support which has given us the success that we have and the needs that teachers have. I also want to point out that teaching hasn't gotten any easier. It's gotten more difficult, right? So providing support becomes extremely important. And I think, I don't want to belabor the fact, but I think you guys get the idea. It's like, you can't just put a teacher in the classroom without the support mechanisms around them to help support them, especially in today's world.
So, Mr. Brodsky, since we're on this slide, so I went through the schools and I noticed reductions in the ELL .08 down to 0, right? Did we do that because we don't have enough ELL students at those schools, or is someone else taking the responsibility for that?
So one of the ideas behind a successful ELL program is that students might come in, and students are ranked on a scale from 1, meaning no English at all, up to a level 5, and in between there. The goal is to bring them up to level 4, which is proficient, and then graduate from the program. It's not to stay in ELL services forever. The idea is to remediate, bring on. So to answer the question directly about the assistance, that is based on the number of students that are in the program there. So there's a
As a
reduction.
former ELL teacher, it is really, really difficult for teachers. This is a very, that and of course ESE and customized IEPs for every student. So that's my biggest concern is the ELLs that are left at these schools, because there was one or two schools you kept those positions. I'm just concerned about what school level support then, or who is going to be doing the support for the ELL if we removed all those assistants.
So the assistant would be based on the number of ELL students within that group. If that number grows,
Yeah.
then another one gets put in there. So it's totally, that happens all the time throughout the year. New people move into that
So is there
school.
like a threshold, like if there's only 20 kids at a school?
There is, but I don't
If it's
remember the
10
number.
other
What's the
students,
number?
We do have fluctuating enrollment, so we
Yeah.
have schools that started off with an
Is
ELD
it-
teacher last year, however, the enrollment dropped below 10.
Right.
And based on what Mr. Broski just said, there's levels in which students need to have pull-out services versus push-in services. So long story short is, the ones that you saw deletions were communities that have seen a decrease in enrollment in multilingual learners. And so, but, you know, one of the things with Mr. Broski as well as the team in general has been the conversation of just, if a need arises, then we will address that need, and we do that ongoing. And then we'll look at requesting an allocation if needed.
Is it
And then if it's
15 though? What's the number?
It just really depends on the unique circumstances of every school. Like, it just depends on where, like, if you, let's say you had, as far as an ESOL assistant, it's 15 students with that
15.
specific language. ELD teachers, it's a little different. It's just based on, like, what are the needs of students and where do they fall in the level of services that they need.
So if the threshold, if they're under, let's say, the 10 threshold or whatever, then they're going to be provided the services needed through the teacher who's certified in ELL?
And we're working through some, you know, because we're not, we have more access than we did previously with the DOJ, we're working through some alternative means to provide some supports. And that's where, you know, with Karen Frazier and her department, as well as collaborating with, you know, all of us, we're gonna try to problem solve with those leaders at schools to see how we can provide those services.
And do we still have the programs of support, let's say through technology, where kids can start learning the second language through?
So we don't utilize a technology platform to teach students at Tier 1.
At Tier 1?
Like,
So-
so when we think about before,
So
we would
that,
use
that
Imagine Learning
program
and
was
things like that.
all revamped. And you
Yeah,
wanna-
because you know you can learn really fast that
Yeah.
way, it's learning a second language, right? But we don't have support technology-wise anymore.
We have like a full-blown curriculum though.
There's
It
a full-
is,
there's a
it's,
curriculum that's utilized, and then
mhm.
there's like, it's really kind of one of those situations too, that as students increase in tiers, as they increase the language acquisition,
Yeah.
then we provide different supports that go into, like, instead of pull-out, it's more of like working through instructional practices and accessibility of content
Yeah.
within the classroom. But again, that also goes back to, as Mr. Broski said, the power of, you know, making sure that we have supports within some of the coaches to provide that. And we do have that with some of our ESOL facilitators.
And then I guess my last concern was the ESE/gifted. I'm always going to be concerned about ESE, period, the most difficult job I ever had. But when we say ESE/gifted, are we taking full day gifted programs to half day? What are we, I just wanted to know exactly what that looks like when you say ESE/gifted 9, was it 9?
Yes, there were 9 ESE. A couple of those were inclusion level positions, and as we have built capacity in our district over the last couple of years with collaboration between general education and special education teachers, we've become more efficient in that process. And so we were able to reduce in a couple of areas where the ESE population at those schools isn't growing, which that's a good thing, right? So also, as we've done a better job with Tier 1 within TSS and those interventions, there are some schools that have not increased in ESE, and we have been able to reduce in a few places. The gifted, Ms. Hanson, was last year when we were at this same time. There were a couple of schools that chose, when we were doing the reductions, to go down to a half of a gifted teacher. A couple of those schools really needed a full-time, so we put those back. But there were a couple of other schools that really did not warrant a full-time gifted that we were able to reduce down to 0.5, but it really is just a couple of schools. Most schools will still have the full-time gifted.
Yes, that's very important. So most schools will have it. For some reason, I didn't know that we added the full day back, so that's good to know. Thank you.
And it was all based on numbers, so
On numbers.
looking at the current numbers and the projected numbers for next year.
All right, thank you.
Okay, here's the change that you see within climate and culture. You see the Department B collapse and merge with the Department of Student Support Services and ESE. You can tell that you're still going to need school psychologists, you're still going to need social workers and all of some of the work that goes on within there, but clearly aligning our goals with the current staffing that we have and our financial situation, you can see that's why the merger that you see there has occurred. And then you can see food nutrition services and Bryce's shop and one project manager, and then IT. Let me tell you, does any of us doubt that IT and the computers kind of rule the world, right? That there's always something related to IT, and so we've got a lot going in IT, but we've got a new director in Bob. You know, if Dwayne came back, we've now made the decision to go full focus next year, and he's done some great work, and I've let him explain some of the things that he noticed within his department as well as the reorganization there. So go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah, so I think one of the big updates that we're looking to make is that we have certain positions. One of the challenges in IT is recruiting, obviously, because even though IT jobs may evolve over the next couple of years, there's still high demand. Interestingly enough, probably since I've taken over, a lot of people have left. I don't know how to take that. I guess the thing is, it generally does actually, well, it generally happens. It doesn't happen specifically to me, but what happens a lot of times is that actually it's usually two groups of people that will sort of pick off our people. One is vendors, to be honest with you, and that's actually what happens is people will get opportunities, and especially if you're younger in IT, you don't mind working the long hours, they can offer just different situations as far as compensation and stuff like that goes. That's harder, and I would make the argument that really, like in public sector or in education, we do offer some benefits that are built in. We've got a good leave structure, you're kind of in rewarding work. I also think that we're a little family friendly with like leave and stuff like that, but also just the holidays. There's a lot of reasons to work here, right? But when it comes to raw compensation, they're going to work more hours, but they're going to get paid a little bit more. What worries me a little bit more is other government entities, because one of the things is if you've been here for a minute, the FRS, the Florida Retirement System, will kind of lock you in a little bit because you start to see retirement getting a little bit closer. But the trick is that you may have other agencies like the clerk of, I'm just picking on things that I've experienced in the past, the clerk of the court, the public governments that are also in the FRS that can also potentially offer that as a solution. And so one of the things is that as we study kind of like where we want to take IT in the next little bit, a couple of core values I have is that I don't want the heaviest team as far as the most number of people. I want a team that is agile. I want a team that we can recruit really high quality people, and we've got a great team. I want to make sure, sort of indicate that we already have a great team. But part of the way that I've seen other districts cope with this, my last travel to Lake County, I know Orange County has it, I know St. Johns County has it. I didn't do a study of everybody, but there is a class of employee known as a professional managerial. If you were actually to study our sheet in IT, you would see a lot of administrators. Part of that is to sort of bend the existing pay structure to work where we're compensating people, but they may not be always administrators in the most classic sense that you see other administrators. It's a bit of a hack, if I'm being honest with you, and it's something that districts have done over time. The professional managerial class, what it allows is, it allows for that agility and the ability to recruit and place people that we want to get, because again, I would make the argument, if you give me two people and we're not paying them that good, they're probably going to flee if they're good, and then sometimes the pool's not as deep because other people will get that chance to hire those people. But I think one thing that's really good is that if we can grow our people, offer sort of professional ladders of development, and then really work to retain our people, I don't, every time I lose a person, it sometimes takes a person and a half to fill that gap. Whereas if I can just keep that person and continue to grow that people, and because I am a product of Clay County, I just think it's important, like, a lot of the people who work in our shop came from, well, I kind of joked, I taught the network supervisor. Like, a lot of these people are, people who've come through the schools that I've been in or other schools, and I'm proud of that, right? So I think the professional managerial class does a couple of things. One is that it allows us to identify those functional leads or those like small team leads without making them a full-blown administrator, if you get what I'm saying. And so I think that is kind of important. And because it is collaborative, IT has gotten much more collaborative. You don't really used to be sort of sat in a cubicle and you just sort of push through stuff. For us to solve problems, we have to get together. But you have to have a structure, and so that lead needs to occur. And then one last thing I think I would say about it is that I think this allows us to create just kind of a different environment and really reevaluate some of the job descriptions. Some of the job descriptions in IT go back to like 2002, right? And so technology has obviously evolved. And as we're reforming and restructuring, I think this will be a benefit. As you can see, we have the lead and one supervisor of information and technology. I think going forward, as we kind of sort of reevaluate through attrition and other things, what we'll start looking at is maybe collapsing into this professional managerial class a little bit more, making sure that people get paid, that we retain them, but at the same time that we don't have that administrative look, if you get what I'm saying, of being administrative heavy. And now we'd argue we're not paying people heavy. We're doing good and we are retaining people. Very proud of our team. We're going to accomplish a lot, make y'all proud next year, especially this SIS conversion. I just think this flexibility is important. In the professional managerial class, just to speak very specifically about it for just a second, we will be moving an FTE analyst. As we know, FTE is very, very important. That work to get FTE over the finish line is unbelievably complicated. Like, there's a million files and a million records of the students that we have to have correct on the students to even get paid. And again, I always kind of kid Dawn here, we're only as good as what we invoice the state. Like, the state will not chase you down and give you money. You have to go earn it through the reporting. So that FTE analyst would be that professional managerial piece. A help desk manager who would help basically sort of wrangle our frontline support, but also just kind of lead that work functionally, if you get what I'm saying. And then the one that I think is very, very important, one thing that is super important to me is that, as he has joked before, I can be a flight risk sometimes and I leave. But one of the things that I kind of kid about a little bit.
I've hired Dwayne 3 times.
And right, it's over like 20-something years, so like in fairness. But I think the one thing that I would say is that I'm big on, as somebody who has seen when you leave, you want to make sure that we have like a rock solid continuity in the teams. And so one of the things that I always feel vulnerable about is that our network supervisor is a very, very gifted young man, but at the same time, we need a backup. And so the other one you're seeing is a senior network engineer to be that person's right hand, but also to provide continuity just in case anything. We always get about the turnip truck or the chicken truck hits you or something like that. You need another one. These people are not necessarily hard to find, and plugging somebody natively in, even if they're a great network person, if you just plug them in, a lot of times it's really hard to get used to how our network's built and stuff like that. So again, it's just to provide continuity. And so a lot of the reform we see is that.
I make the argument too that the intense focus on FTE, that we're actually up FTE from previous year. And that's because the team has looked at it and focused on it so much more. And he's not telling a fib there. They're not going to come and say, oh, by the way, we should pay you more. They're going to always try and short you until you prove that they should pay you more, and that's what we've done. Some good work. Okay, in human resources, we're deleting a supervisor within that department also.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
A couple slides back,
Sure.
sorry. Back to instructional changes. I think it was your second slide. Can I ask for some clarification on the deleting 4 to 6 school psychologists, since we're already under
what we are projected to need for school psychologists and also for the speech language pathologists?
You still need speech and also school psychologists.
Right, why
Enough.
deleting? Why are we deleting allocation?
So in the case, I can speak specifically about speech language pathologists, because I'm well versed in that. There's 51 allocations there. They have 42 current people.
So those are unfilled?
You're not gonna.
Okay, so, and is it the same for the
Same.
school? Okay, because I know there's like been 5 open spots, and that's why I was like, oh, you're not cutting more, are you?
No.
Those are just, you're saying we're gonna deal with what we have?
Correct, because you're not gonna, well, there's also, you see the two additional educational evaluators also to fill up some of the gaps in the work there.
To do some of the testing and stuff, okay.
Okay, so at the district level, you can see that total is between the two, both federal and general, 2.3 million, really, so that equals 7.3 from the school versus the district. So if you take a look and you had 2.3 at the district level, 5.0 at the school level, that's 46% of the reductions were at the district level. Right, so you kind of see the equity piece of that. Equity is such an important thing that I know that people will go ahead. One of the first things that happens as soon as you put this out, people go, well, they didn't do this. Well, they should have done that. Well, they could have done this, right? There's great care given to the idea of, is it fair between the school and the district, the employee class? You can see the data that supports that and is analyzed related to that idea. So if you really want to take a look at district versus non-district, the percentage of reduction was a 6% reduction at the district level, a 2.2% reduction at the school level. So clearly almost 3-to-1 reduction at the district level versus the school level. You can see from 4.4% of the district administrators versus the instructional at 3.3. You can kind of see how we looked at all of those numbers to make those decisions. Again, you know, this is America. Everybody takes a look at things and they say whatever they're going to say related to it. I can only assure the board this. A group of people that actually do the work each and every day met to discuss the issue, also factor in the equity pieces and make the best judgment possible within that. The allocation package is a baseline. It's not a written in stone forever kind of thing. We don't even have a budget for next school year, right? So put this all in perspective. We're going to vote on an allocation-based package because for stability, you have to move the timeline along because people need to know that they're reemployed for next year. So we're moving along.
Can you repeat that out loud again? We do not.
We do not have a budget for next school year. So we won't know until after the legislature meets, and but the indication is a very small increase in education funding is the prediction of that. So you can see a lot of work went into that.
And I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Ms. Watt, can you send me in an email just this chart and I don't need the whole slideshow. I can actually read the words on this. But as far as the chart's concerned with the numbers, can you send that separately in an email to us?
Sure, I'll print it for you before you leave today.
Okay. That way I can.
You got it.
I'm a little blind.
It print out very small, so I'll get you a.
Well, and this other one.
I just wanted to conclude
Which other one?
with.
Okay, thank you. You got it.
I just want to conclude with the idea, the concept that very difficult to maintain the level of performance that you have and also make reductions related to that and support. And so you've heard me wax poetic many times about the need for increased funding for public education, the reforming of school vouchers. All of those things need to occur that are out of our purview, but our focus should be on students, right? And so we try to provide the best package possible. And with that, I'm done unless there's questions.
I guess we'll move on to ballot language.
Okay, for each of you, there's a document that's a single sheet of paper, and it just has some language there. Let me just start off by saying that ballot language is more complicated than you would think. Right, so it's 15-word maximum for the ballot title, it's 75-word maximum for the ballot summary, so every word kind of matters. So what the district did, based on the conversation that the board had previously 2 other times related to this topic, everybody seemed like they were in favor of school safety and having police officers in our schools, as well as competitive compensation for our employees to attract and retain the best possible people. When you think about it, that's kind of basic, right? We want our kids to be safe, and we want our kids to have the best possible employee in front of them, making a difference with those students each and every day. So I'm going to say we met 5 times for hours.
Yes.
Debating the words. Bryce was in those meetings, that's why she's laughing. JP was in the meetings, and we all sat there and we looked and we said, how do we convey this in a way that's easy for people to understand, that we're going to have police officers in all of our schools, and that we're going to go ahead and compensate our employees in a competitive way, because our neighbors, don't forget, have done that very same thing already. So when it comes to competing, I don't know about you, first step in competing is not only assessing where you're at, but you assess where everybody else is and who you're competing against, right? And so when you do that, it seems like a natural that when we go back out for the renewal, remember, this is not a new thing that's happening. This is a renewal of the same millage that's already in existence, which wouldn't cost the taxpayer any more for that. It just provides clarity of language, that the objective of it is to keep our students safe by having police officers in our schools, as well as a competitive salary for attracting and retaining employees. Now, I will tell you that legals reviewed this language. We've had the supervisor of elections review it also. I think the statute's about like 8 pages, just on this, like the wording of it. So for example, we originally had a hyphenated word. I think we said highly
qualified.
High
qualified.
And when we looked at it, okay, highly qualified. When we did that, we thought a hyphenated word was 1 word. Chris Chambliss says, oh no, contraire. Hyphenated word is 2 words. So I'm just trying to point out to the board that there's a technical thing related to this, and I don't know if the board attorney wants to chime in on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So ballot language issues are one of the most heavily litigated. Just in the last 5 years, I've represented 5 different local governments, and so each year in a ballot initiative issue. Some of these were involving special elections, so it has to have clarity, it has to be clear to the voter, and the assumption, the case law is that the voter has a 4th grade education, which is common through every county, all 67 counties, because anyone, there's no real educational requirement to be a voter, so someone has to be able to read it, that's be the plain reading of it, it has to resonate with the individual. It has to be limited to 75 words, and we have that, and also the preamble has to be 15 words, you have a 15-word and a 75-word, which this complies with. And then further, it actually has to be within the bounds of your authority, which it is. You have the authority to approve this language and put it on the ballot. It's within your scope of authority. So we believe this is compliant. We believe this would stand a challenge if there is a challenge. I believe there's a challenge that would be frivolous because we're not over. Some of the challenges are you're over the word limit, which is a strict compliance issue. There is some wiggle room on that, but there's no reason to be over. We can convey it, and it's clear to the voter. Any voter reading this would certainly understand the first parts of it establish, the first line establishes to protect, and then gets into what the mechanism is. It's clear to the voter what they're voting for and approving.
So I think if we could, first of all, thank you guys. I know that this was a lot of work and a heavy lift, and to your point, it's very delicate work. And I think it's well written. I think it definitely makes it very clear what the intent is for how we will spend this money, while also empowering us as a board to make the right decisions for our district as we move forward in a very murky financial world with what we're getting from the state and not getting from the state. So personally, I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful the way it's written, and I have no desire to change it.
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Did our other language say that it is reviewed by an independent citizens oversight committee? Or did we
It
just
did
add
not,
that?
that we added that.
Okay.
I think that in the discussion of people, we recognize that transparency is a thing that for the voters to have. We thought that that mechanism would be one that provides solace to the voter to see that there is a group of citizens that are going to review that.
Are we going to
So-
make that committee? Or is
So-
it already,
Similar to, it would be similar to the sales tax committee.
so are we gonna use those same people, or do we have to make another one as well?
We had talked about using the same people in order to do that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if we were gonna make a whole another committee. I was just curious about that. No, I'm fine with the language too, personally.
And I think it's important to remember that this money, when we're talking about teacher contracts and contracts with law enforcement, contracts are negotiated, so I think it's important that we're careful in our language here, that we are able to negotiate well in both of those areas.
Flexibility. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's very positive, and I wouldn't change a thing. You know, it's just sad that St. John's and Duval got ahead of us with their 1 mil. I mean, St. John's, I think, that passed by 68%. So I think we'll see a higher number this time of people supporting it.
I think the challenge too is just the amount that's generated. You know, in St. John's, it's almost a 3-to-1 advantage because of property value differences.
Ms. Hanson?
I just feel like you guys did a really great job on the wording. And it has nothing to do with the wording on the last one, but I remember reading the last one, wondering what exactly will we use the money for? You have left no doubt in anyone's mind what we're going to use the money for. It's clearly the two things, and I think it's an exceptional idea to have an independent citizen oversight committee, because we always need to have people looking from the outside in order to maintain transparency. That's just the way it is. So I appreciate the amount of work that went into it and the fact that it is so easily read and understood. And I believe this will be a very successful millage language for us.
It's not open-ended, it's direct.
Yep.
Mr. Alvier?
I think it's just important also for the public to understand through this. I don't know if you guys get the same calls I do every year when we have to report our rollback rate in the newspaper. But I think this is just, an example of how we are not a taxing authority, that any tax that we ask for, it has to be voter approved, that we would never be able even legally to implement a tax apart from voter approval. That this is our only way to increase the revenue here in order to do what we need to do to run the school district safely and effectively.
It's a life jacket.
It is.
It's our life jacket. It's very important. And it's our job to make people understand that, how important that is.
Especially with all the additional cuts and
Right,
changes
exactly.
within education, and I know the feedback that I get about our sheriff's office being in school, our parents love that. They thank us all the time for that. The K-9s, the whole package that it comes with having CCSO in our schools, I couldn't be more thankful as a mom and with 2 little girls in our schools. So I can tell you that supporting this gives us that consistency and gives us the ability to continue that safety and security that I personally want for my 2 little girls. And I genuinely mean that. It's not a selling point for me. That is literally, you can't replace any of our babies. So I think that the quality that we have within our schools matters, and they're doing an exceptional job. I hear nothing but positive things. So I personally would love to see this passed for those reasons alone, but then for pay compensation for our teachers and catching our teachers up and giving them what they deserve. So, but Mr. Alvaro, do you have a thought on this before we?
I think this is excellent work. It doesn't leave any doubts for the questions that people, the community had before. No doubts, it's very transparent, and they're gonna be witness exactly what we're gonna do in the committee. So that they're witness themselves, they can, tell everybody else what we're doing. It doesn't have to come from us. I think it's good work.
So is that a consensus?
So then we're going to add an agenda item on Thursday then, in order to put this on there. So that we can move. Then from here, don't forget it goes to the Board of County Commissioners as passed through, and then on to the Supervisor of Elections, all within the time frame.
Start times?
Yes, do you want to review that, Kelly? You all have a sheet and.
Yep, everyone has a
Review the
sheet.
results of it.
All right. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank the community for engaging in this. This was a what we call a very successful survey in terms of being able to connect with our community, and we appreciate the great turnout. We had almost 21,000 individuals respond, and so we really feel like we got a great cross-section of our community of those. And you can see here we had 56, almost 57% of them were parents and guardians. So they were, I think that they looked at the flyer, they were highly attuned.
Do we have a slide with this on it?
With all of this on it?
Yeah.
So we...
I mean, like this part, so people...
So that they can see this?
Yeah.
Well, we are going to put this out.
Okay.
So we wanted to speak with you first, but we do have our webpage and all of this will go
Okay.
on it, but we certainly wanted to give you all
right.
first glance at it. So if the board is okay with it, we would like to add this to our webpage on our school start times. Yeah. So of it, about 57% were parents and guardians. Students, particularly high school students, were highly interested in this topic, and so 1 in 4 of the respondents were our students themselves. We had school employees and community members, and so here we did ask them which one was what was your primary role, but we also know that you could be a parent and a school employee, right, and an interested community member. If you look below, you are going to see that majority of respondents selected option A, and at 54%. And so if you look on the back it tells us about the different perspectives. For students, as I mentioned, the majority of our respondents were high school students, and they were most concerned about the fact that a later start time would impact their part-time jobs. And we know that employment for our students is important, and for some students it is even more important as they contribute to their families. They were also concerned about things such as sports practices and club meetings going later into the evening. I will say, and as we put out the survey, that the reason that the legislature initially brought this forward was because we know that students, young people, need more sleep, and that there are certain health benefits. So students did acknowledge that, but they did feel like weighing the two, that the benefits were certainly, and employment would be in sports and athletics and other extracurriculars were going to be more important. And parents overwhelmingly were highly, even if they did not have an elementary age student, they were highly concerned about this idea. If you recall, the later start times for middle school and high school forced our elementary school students to have that early slot. And what we know is that that means that our young children would be out at the bus stops in the dark. And so that was a great concern. Parents were also concerned about supervision for their students because an early start time means an earlier release, and that they did rely on the older children to look after and sometimes pick up their students. In terms of employees and staff, 62% of them continue to be in favor of option A, and they believe that a later dismissal would impact their ability to remain in their current positions due to their own child care needs or coaching responsibilities. So really it came down to safety and some of those unintended economic consequences. And so this will be in our board agenda, and so these are the results, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We only do this one time ever, right?
You mean in terms of surveying? Yes, this is a one and done. So based on Senate Bill 296, once we do this, we will continue with these start times from here forward, which is maintaining our current school start times.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I know we asked that question, or I asked that question last time, but I have multiple parents who were wondering what we were doing and why we thought this would be a good idea and all the things. So I had to explain state statute and the backstory behind all of it. And so they're like, are we doing this every year? And I'm like, I don't think so, but.
No, we hope not. We hope not, because we feel like we, especially with 21,000 respondents, we did feel very good about the fact that we got a wide cross-section and they overwhelmingly voted in favor of maintaining our current start times.
But to Ms. Gibber's point, it creates a lot of angst in the community.
Yes.
So I think it's important that we communicate that to our state legislators, that it's important that we do this once and not do it again. We don't need to stir up angst in our population every year.
Right. Because one comment with a group of people that I spoke to is, we have so much more you guys could be tackling. Why are you tackling start times? And I'm like, well, that's a good question.
Yeah, yes.
So, yeah.
So hopefully we can put our community at ease, that will give, based on the board's decision, that there will not be a change.
So then we're going to go ahead, sounds like there's consensus here, we're going to put an agenda item on there for a vote, and then at that point, we can go ahead and complete the documentation that the state needs in order to grant a waiver of the current legislation. That's really the process that we're going through.
Transportation.
All right, transportation.
Okay, so we wanted just to give a brief update on recruiting bus drivers, but I also wanted to mention.
There's another sheet we gave you. We always like paper.
You have a handout.
We gave you a sheet.
Of some of the topics we'll discuss briefly, and Roxanne will speak to it, the bus driver recruitment. However, I just wanted to give an update on the website. We are looking at the website and trying to update that and make it more user-friendly, kind of with bigger buttons. I know at the last board meeting, there was a parent up there. I get calls, how do I get to the hazard form? How do I get to the, and there's a lot on our website that's required by state statute, and a lot of it's has to be on the first page, and so I understand, it gets cumbersome for parents. So we're trying to look at the website and make it more obvious, like click here. And so that was just a representation of kind of what we're putting on the front page. And then, again, working with Sabrina and her team, we will be updating that regularly. And as parents, we get questions from parents, just trying to make it more user-friendly. And we also wanted to let you guys know we're starting registration this year, or now, for 26-27. Yes, if you guys hear from parents, if they're like, do I have to register again? Yes, you have to register every year. We can't anticipate, every family needs change from year to year, so you have to go on every year and re-register. So if you hear any discussions out in the community or have questions on that, yes, please tell them to go register. We tried to have the button on the transportation page where they can go do that, and so do it early as possible. But we're starting the messaging now, and we'll continue. You have till about midsummer. And of course, that doesn't mean we're stopping transportation registration, but, the earlier they can do it, the better we can plan for next year. So I'll have Roxanne, I'll pass it to her to talk about bus driving.
The only thing I want to add to registration, the only exception is if it's an ESC student. All of those are routed through the paperwork that we get. So if you happen to get any questions from parents about that, the only exception is an ESC student. So the other piece we want to kind of talk through, and of course there's also the buttons now that are on the website, are the hazardous walking condition forms. Those, we will be looking at as well every year. We look at them, we revisit them throughout the year. As construction goes away, as construction gets added, we have to accommodate the ebbs and flows of that. So if there are some hazardous conditions out there is a form for parents in the community that they can fill out. It goes directly to our routing team, and then we send 1 or 2 of our employees out there. They take a look based off of state statute, if it matches, if it doesn't.
I just wanted to say, I remember there was 2,200 and something maybe students that we had concerns about when we first lowered it, raised it to 2.2 miles. I'm quite impressed with the fact that 813 students have qualified for hazardous walking conditions and 438 students as courtesy ridership. It's quite impressive that we were able to get a handle on the majority of the kids that the board was concerned about. And I just want to thank you because I know that's a lot of work.
Sure, no, I appreciate that. And that's kind of a main point for today is to kind of get those numbers in front of you guys, just to kind of see that, yes, even though we have slid that to the 2-mile rule, if anything comes across the desk or email or a phone call, and it just makes sense. We are flexible where we can be flexible. And we just kind of wanted to show those numbers to everybody as well.
And I did real quick thank Roxanne's team for doing that, because they do have a heart for kids, and they do, I know you guys have said you see kids walking on the side of the road. Sometimes I think people just don't know where to get the hazard form, or that there was even a hazard form.
Sure.
And so, just trying to make those things more obvious and letting them know, hey, you can apply for a hazard form if you know that. And her team does everything possible to try to get, we would love to give everybody a ride. Don't get me wrong, but we can't. But they do everything they can to make it possible for as many kids.
In the courtesy form, when they click the link, it's also the parent or guardian acknowledging what a courtesy rider is, depending on the behavior of the student, they can lose that privilege. Also, depending on the volume on that bus. So if we have riders that, say, start moving into a community and they fall outside of that 2-mile, courtesy ridership could be lost as well. So there are stipulations as they look on that form, so that parents and guardians are aware up front, that we will do it as long as we can. But it's kind of also their way of signing off that they've read through the disclaimers. The other piece that we have here is just basically about our recruitment strategies for our bus drivers. Right now we're good with monitors, so our focus is still drivers. I will tell you right now, I've got 3 that are in training, 1 who received her CDL yesterday. I have 1 that has to retest partial, and then we have 1 who's in week 3. So as we're getting the drivers in, they've been filling in routes. My routing team also has identified 2 routes that we completely were able to kind of dismantle because of availability in certain areas. So that helped us as well with a driver need for that route. Those students no longer were a double up, double back. We were able to put them on specific routes, and they are a part of the route, which means parents can follow them on the Chipmunk app too. We do have an applicant tracking spreadsheet that we keep internally. That's between myself, my training coordinator who also assists largely in my HR operations, and my HR secretary. So on the spreadsheet that we keep, it's any applicant that comes through, whether it's Indeed, whether it's through the county website. And it follows, it has a flow to it. Our HR department here at county also contributes to that information so that we can see once they leave our screening at transportation, where are they at in the county's screening process as well, whether it's drug screen, background check, orientation. So it's a great hub of information for everyone involved in HR to keep track of that. Our last Indeed job fair that we had, just to give you guys some numbers, as you can see on the paper. So the great thing about Indeed is there's lots of data that gets captured if everybody's going through all the steps, and applicants included. So we had 50 people RSVP. So all hands on deck day, and 11 showed up. So that's something that you will battle with no matter what. It's part of the recruiting process. We had, out of those 11, we had 9 that we were interested in, that we did submit to HR, and they are currently going through their screenings. So I would say that's a very, very successful Indeed hiring event. Typically, I'm excited if I get 2 to 3, that come through from those. But I think what also contributed to that was even the social media posts, that we put out there. I think that really also helped give a visual to it. Of course, there's other job fairs that come through. Our district has one on May 6th. That'll be at Fleming Island High School from 5 to 7. And that is kind of a district job fair, so that'll be all of them. We'll have transportation representation there as well. And then we've had just throughout our human resources department, they go throughout, the state doing different job fairs, as you can tell there. So far, there's been a total of 19 in total that have not just been put on by transportation, but also with our HR department. So very thankful for their assistance as well. Career Source is another outlet that we utilize. So if anybody is familiar with Career Source, that's where you have candidates looking for jobs, and Career Source has, clients looking to get those jobs fulfilled. So it's a good connector for them. And they also display our materials, our flyers. If people come through and they're doing their in-house interviews, they're talking about, our jobs at the district as well as been out there a few times, kind of set up and talk to people as they come through also. So as you can see, we've got our flyer down here as well. That will be at our district booth at the fair. And it kind of has just some of our, the pay rate and the sign-on bonus, things that we hope will attract candidates to come work for us. We also have on April 25th, Touch a Truck is coming up. So that's a really, really fun event. The kids and the parents, it's great to even they'll get up on the bus, and a lot of them I didn't know we had AC, I didn't know the technology, so it's a really good event. And this year we'll definitely have a bigger focus tying in the hiring piece as well. But it's fun to just watch parents and students get up on the bus. And even first timers that have not ever been on a bus, because it gives them that opportunity. So we'll also that's at the fairground too.
Here's a quick question.
Yeah.
Under where it says in the flyer, full-time starting salary, and it says full benefits and flexible hours. We allow people, if they bring in years' experience with them, right, on the steps?
Yes.
Would it be, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, I'm just saying, would it be maybe to our benefit if we put on there that we have that?
Yeah, we can definitely add that.
That if you come
How
with
many years to
experience,
bring?
it's more
Yeah.
than 17, 20?
Sure.
To try to attract experienced people, maybe? Because I remember the board kind of fought to have those steps put in there, right?
Yes.
And to bring that experience with them would give them a higher starting salary.
We can kind of give that range up to that cap of years.
And maybe
so
just like a
they'll
little
get-
asterisk or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, we can absolutely add that. It's a great idea, thank you.
Or experience counters or
What's the
something
age
like
requirement?
that. Experience.
What's the age requirement for number 18 or 21
Yes, so they have to be 21, yes.
So we can't add it to our CC for
We could.
future.
Start as a model year.
So the last piece was about compensation as well. So just as I mentioned for the flyer, we do have a sign-on bonus that is, $500 once they meet their 90-day probation period, that our drivers do get, as well as perfect attendance. I think the mid-year workshop we did, I had displayed, we had 36, I think, employees for semester 1 that had perfect attendance. So they were able to get that bonus, and then hopefully they'll continue for the second semester and get that as well. So, and just some guidelines around how all of that works as far as your perfect attendance. So we're definitely moving right along. We're getting positions filled. It is unfortunate, like I've mentioned before, sometimes it's one step forward, 2 steps back. So, even though I've put trainees into open routes since the last time we've talked, I've also had some that had to go out. So that is always a moving target. That is not specific to Clay County. That's in all counties, so we'll continue.
I just want to tell you how thankful I am for you and your efforts, because honestly, the thoughtfulness that goes into what you just showed us is absolutely top tier, right? You are doing the best you can with $17.20 an hour, which is, by the way, $2 over minimum wage. So if you want to talk about that hill you're climbing, thank you for trying to make that work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank everybody, thank all of our drivers also that are out there doing it every day. I would say our other hurdle to get over is attendance, and we'll be making our strides against that too. So, any questions?
I'll just tell you, when I get a phone call about transportation service, this is my message. We're hiring.
We do the same thing. We're like, hey, if you'd like to drive too, if you want to help. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
I have a question, President. What can we do as a board that doesn't include, giving more money because we don't have it right now, that can help you?
Yeah, I think just like she mentioned, as the parents are coming to you guys with concerns, just kind of supporting that, the big topic, is we're doing the hiring, we're getting people in the door. It is a 5-week process. It is on everybody's radar, and as we come into next year, I know that was part of, for your newsletter, what to expect for next year, that I'm working with my team on that too. There's changes that I would like internally for my team to focus on as well as we get into the new year and have a better next school year.
I think the earlier registration time,
Yes.
like hammering that right off the bat, because I remember it wasn't funny last year that we had so many people apply. I think Mr. Superintendent said that we crashed the program, not just in our county.
Yes.
So I think really the key is that pre-registering, that we've moved up a couple of months with your eyes on that, is really going to help us.
Yes, we're already looking at summer school, as far as with our drivers and availability, so planning.
I know you guys have, through the year, programs like Driver Appreciation Day, right?
Yes,
Things
yeah.
like that.
Yep, so the last week of April, we'll have Driver Appreciation Week. So I'm trying to hit the ground and look for donations and things like that. In years past, we've done like something nice every day, whether it's crumble cookie or, pizza. It's just kind of a nice week to recognize them, yes.
I wanted to ask you are you able to fundraise as a Director of Transportation? You just depend on people's donations?
So we typically, from what I do, is we go after our vendors. So as far as fundraising, I'll kind of open that to the others. There's not an active fundraising that happens at transportation. We typically will go to our vendors for donations.
Would it be a good idea? Would you like to,
Yeah, we're open definitely to any ideas, any hands to help.
Most of the time, it's vendors, vendors, have a stake within it. So even like stated schools, if you recall, that was all paid for through our vendors. And so the vendors with if she needs assistance, we can have Bryce through operations also provide some donations related to that.
Some school districts have an individual person who essentially fundraises for the district.
That's what I was thinking. I mean,
But that's like a separate
Well,
position.
we have that, that's what I was gonna say, through our education foundation.
Yeah.
We don't fund that position, do we? I think that position pays for itself now.
For the
For the
foundation itself?
Yeah, for the, is it the president?
Yeah, we do fund half of it.
Half of it. So maybe that would be a source for, some help.
Additional fundraising.
So maybe we should team up.
You said that was the first week of April?
Last week.
Last
Yes,
week.
last
Wow.
week.
Can you send us an email?
Yeah,
Sorry
do
about that.
So we can come crash your party.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for all you guys do, and anything that we can do, we will do, so, let us know. I know we've beat you over the head with presentations and questions the last couple of months, so we greatly appreciate it. Anything you guys need, let us know.
All right.
Any more
Thank you, guys.
questions, comments, concerns? All right, Mr. Bresky?
Okay, I'll go quickly through this. There's some things that you witnessed today. There'll be an additional item added for ballot language. So they'll see something new that's not on the computer right now. There'll be an additional item for start time, to vote on that. The staffing plan will be attached within the 48-hour time frame, as well as supplements. So kind of going quickly through it. On the discussion agenda, you have the no human resources actions at this point. And then you have the textbook adoption item. There's a public hearing for that to be in compliance with the statute. Then there'll be an item for allocations. And then on the consent agenda, much of the same stuff that we've always had, whether it be the minutes, the personnel consent agenda. You will see on the personnel consent agenda some differences in job descriptions. For example, part of the restructuring of IT is that most places, the person in charge of IT is the Chief Technology Officer. So Dwayne gets a new job title and more responsibilities, but gets the same pay. So congratulations, Dwayne. And also Dr. Sanders taking on additional responsibilities. She gets a different job title, but the same base pay. Also in alignment with our budget, as well as what's happening in the trends around the state. You can also see that there's a proclamation for Teacher Appreciation Week. It is May 4th through 8th. Administrative Professionals Week, which is the 20th of April through the 24th. There's a copy of the complete salary schedule with that professional managerial class added. Elementary student out-of-state travel, academic services, out-of-state travel, professional learning catalog. That's every year we bring the professional learning catalog. Appeals for book reviews is on there. Establishment of School Nurses Week, which is May 6th through 12th. Establishment Month of the Military Child, which Purple Up Day is April 15th. Invite everybody to wear purple on that day. Proposed allocation changes, you can see there are no financial impact there. The auditor's independent report is also on there. This is the annual financial report related to independent auditor fiscal year ending June 2025. Okay, there's no significant findings, essentially, was the bottom line. But it took 80 pages to do that. So apparently there's some wordiness to it. Monthly financial reports, budget amendments, deletion of certain items, bid renewals, a lot of those very same things. An agreement for real-time access to surveillance cameras with Greenfield PD. We already have done that with the Sheriff's Office through their real-time crime lab. Substantial final completion on Buckeye's locker room. Hopefully junior high classroom addition, the reconciliation report there, pre-qualification, purchase of a relocatable If anybody wants to buy relocatable, we're selling them for $10. And the reason why that is because it costs more to transport. What's the cost to transport?
It depends on the size, 3,000.
About, to transport, about 10 grand.
About 10 grand to transport one of them.
To transport,
So-
just to
Set it back
move it.
up, yeah.
Well, after you set back up and then start adding all of the stairs and concrete, now we're getting into big money.
So $10 is.
So we sell it for $10 so that
Display.
they pay for the transportation to move it, which saves us a ton of money. We don't have to crush it. So it costs us a substantial amount of money to crush it if we want to dispose of it in place. So it's kind of a win-win for both parties.
Can't get a burn permit.
We're actually looking at that, actually.
And then they buy.
They see the change order for Keystone Heights High School, then the parking lot at Middleburg High, you can see ops is really busy, fire alarm at Shadow Lawn, the Oak Leaf Junior High Classroom Edition, direct purchasing, Classroom Edition at Oak Leaf Junior High, substantial and final, then Lakeside Elementary, their kitchen renovations, so they've been busy over in operations, then Lakeside Elementary, the final completion of their kitchen, and then the relocatables at Oak Leaf Junior High item. So with that, so some things that we owe you the item on ballot language, we owe you the item on start times, we owe you the addition of the supplement package, and we owe you the addition of the allocation package itself. And that completes the agenda review.
Any more comments?
No, ma'am.
Alrighty, board attorney comments
No, ma'am.
and school board comments. Ms. Gilhousen?
Nothing for me. Hope to see you guys at the fair luncheon.
Ms. Clark?
Nothing for me either.
Ms. Hanson?
I just wanted to check, it is the April workshop that the internal audit for the procurement and contracts, they'll be here in April? The internal auditors?
The invite, they will be here on, I think it's May. Hold on.
And I thought it was April's workshop.
It has been,
Where they come report to the board. I know we moved the date to in May to a different date. That was for us to meet.
May 6th is the next internal audit committee meeting.
I mean, when they report to us about the results of the internal audit.
We'll get with RSM and see if they're available to come to the work.
Yeah, because
On the 24th.
Because in May, they're going to discuss what maybe new area we would like to have audited, so.
Well, according to the last meeting, they're coming here in May to discuss the contracts. That was what they're coming to in May to. They don't have that contract audit review done right now. They're still getting documentation.
I think what the board member wants is for RSM to come and for us to have an executive session on cybersecurity.
Oh, okay.
They were supposed to be, yes.
And for them to give a presentation on that.
Okay.
So we'll contact them.
Because I thought that was happening today, and it's okay that it's not. There was supposed to be a meeting for the board to have the shade meeting, and then in April, they were supposed to be here to give us the results of the still ongoing contracts and procurement audit. And then in May, we meet, and that's whole different. That's when the internal audit committee meets itself. And on that agenda, they'll discuss maybe another area that they would like to have audited. That was the timeline before the end of the year.
So.
Do you want me to send an email?
Well, I
No.
just don't think they've discussed the contract review at the audit committee yet as well, all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That conversation hasn't been had yet.
No, it was about the ideas for the next contract.
So here's where I think we're at with that. I think we're going to contact RSM, have them come to the board workshop. We would have a shade meeting regarding cybersecurity and the results of that audit in particular. And then they're coming, we're having an internal audit committee meeting to discuss contracts in May. After that happens, then that'll be brought to the board at a later date after that May timeframe. And we can also discuss what areas they would recommend would be next for auditing.
In May, the May 2nd meeting.
Yeah.
Because I know the board has not been updated on, and they said they would come.
Okay.
Just let us know, I guess. Anything else?
No,
Mr. Javier? All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Good job.